I really truly believe that, in an age of disconnection, in an age where we've become really uncomfortable with being with the uncomfortable, that actually that's taken us away from so many benefits that we can really truly reap in this life if only we allow ourselves to feel with and to sit with and be patient with ourselves when we're feeling that pain, that hurt, and that discomfort. Hey, I'm Tanya Wilkinson, and this is Death on the Daily, bringing the conversation about death out of the shadows and into the mainstream. Because along with birth and change, if there's one thing that's going to happen to us all, then death is it. And we're going to explore how death actually shows up for us on the daily in a multitude of ways, and how when we allow ourselves to accept and to be with death, how it can teach us a whole heap about how to live this life well. So this is my first solo episode of Death on the Daily in the new year, and far from me coming with any kind of new year, new me type message, I'm coming with a message of new year, same me, but with that commitment to root into constantly growing and evolving, to peel back those layers inside, to understand all aspects of me, to find acceptance, to give myself heaps of grace and compassion, as well as to make that commitment to journey through life in ever increasing presence, in ever increasing connection, and just curating a life in which I can thrive, but understanding that that is going to take time, it's going to take commitment, and it's going to take just taking it one small step at a time. Because I think there's a lot of pressure at this time of year to come quickly out of the starting blocks, almost as if our life depends on it, right? And what that does is it makes it into a make or break type situation, but it's not. And actually, if, like myself, you're feeling like you're in winter hibernation mode and you just want to sit and reflect for the next month, maybe longer, that is totally, totally okay. And in today's episode, in the spirit of reflection, I actually wanted to come in and share some of my own reflections that I've been doing recently, actually since I recorded my last episode of Death on the Daily with the incredible Jodie Wellman, who is the author of You Only Die Once, How to Make It to the End with No Regrets. And Jodie's work is really about integrating in, the themes of the Grim Reaper, of the fact that we only have one life, therefore we will only die once. And so what that teaches us is if we can touch and be with death and the fact that we are all mortals, that actually that unlocks so much about how to live this life well. And as I've been doing my own reflection since that episode, I've been rooting into where did I learn my biggest life lessons? And for me, that has always come in deaths, whether that's losing those who I love so dearly or in other sort of big transitional moments. Now, it will come as no surprise to you if you've tuned into any episodes of this podcast that the most seismic transformational moment for me was when we devastatingly lost our daughter, Ngako Rayona. And we lost her in 2023. Unfortunately, she had a birth defect that was uncovered 5 months into pregnancy that wasn't compatible with her living outside of the womb. So I had to go through a medical termination and her death and then stillbirth. And it was such a seismic moment where I realized how much I can hold as a human, but also, in the weird way that death can bring, that experience and she has taught me so much about how to live this life well. And I say this while also highlighting that if I could go back in time and make that not happen, have her here in my arms right now, have her this month about to turn 1, I would do that in a heartbeat. I would erase everything that I've learned, everything that I'm grateful for her that she brought into my life through that experience. I would erase that in a heartbeat to have her here. But I can't, and she's not here with me. But her legacy lives on through me. And that's something that I get that fierce motherly pride every time I think about her and I think about everything that she's brought me. Because she's brought me so much. And so for today's episode, I thought I'd share 3 lessons on living and loving that my darling daughter, Ngaka Rayona, has brought me, and what these lessons mean for us all in how we can truly, truly live this life well. And before we get into these life lessons from my darling daughter, I thought I'd share a quick clip from the last episode of Death in the Daily with Jodie Wellman, because she explains the concept of post-traumatic growth so well. And this is something that I have really, really felt, and that I believe is an opportunity, not for all of us, because I will say that actually, when we understand post-traumatic growth, but when we're going through something ourselves, that actually we want to take the pressure off of ourselves. We don't want to put that pressure on ourselves to be like, I'm grieving right now, but I need to look for the lessons. Where are they? That is not the energy that we want to bring into this. It's more actually that if we receive those lightning bolts of clarity and deeper understanding of ourselves, of this life and the life that we want to live, it's basically about seizing those opportunities when they come, but not trying to put pressure on ourselves or forcing it.
There's a concept, post-traumatic growth. Whenever we go through any kind of traumatic event, research is clear that like 30 to 50% of people, that's a big chunk, will actually emerge at a higher level of psychological functioning than had they not had the traumatic event. And one of the 4 components of post-traumatic growth is a deepened appreciation for life, that gratitude. So I'm not suggesting we have to go through trauma. I mean, trauma is going to find us. So let's just like wait 15 minutes or something. But when we will stop and appreciate, I have been resilient through this crappy time, or I am finite and I've done the math, and it allows us to appreciate. It allows us to see that life is something that is precious.
So rooting into post-traumatic growth and the fact that actually when we go through big thresholds in life, when we go through big losses, that there can be those moments of clarity and that deeper understanding that we gain. Now I'm going to share my 3 life lessons that I've learned from my darling daughter. So firstly, to live life fully, we must accept and be with the difficult and the painful. And can we ever be whole as humans if we don't allow ourselves to do this? I don't believe that we can. And actually, if you look to a lot of religious philosophy, for example, you've got the lotus flower that is across Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, and that symbolism of the lotus flower growing out of the mud, and the fact that actually we have to sit in that mud, we have to go through that mud in order for those lotus flowers to bloom. That is the path to enlightenment. And I really truly believe that, in an age of disconnection, in an age where we've become really uncomfortable with being with the uncomfortable, that actually that's taken us away from so many benefits that we can really truly reap in this life, if only we allow ourselves to feel with and to sit with and be patient with ourselves when we're feeling that pain, that hurt, and that discomfort. And I really do think that we underestimate our capacity of just how much we can hold as humans. For me, that was something that I really, really learned, going from the conversation with one of my dear friends just after I got the diagnosis for our daughter. And my husband was driving me home in the car, and I said to her, I will not get through this alive. I will not be able to survive this. And I truly, truly believe that. She said, you can and you will. And I did. And I not only did, but and if you haven't seen the story and you want to hear about my story with my daughter, or our story with our daughter, with myself and my husband, go back to episode 1, because I talk all about it there. But actually I made a promise of presence to her. It was in that moment at the end of that car journey where I said to her, I'm going to be with you no matter what. And I was fully present in that experience. And I realized that actually where I'd always been running from pain and disconnecting and trying to distract myself and, where can I go that's not going to have me just sitting in stillness with this? I actually realized through that experience that I'd been really underselling myself. I could hold it. And not only could I hold it, but I could, in a very griefy way, I could get through it in a way that actually on the other side, I am thriving in life so much more. And this is because being with the truly most terrible thing that I could ever have imagined happening to us, what that did was it really helped me to get clarity, to understand actually, okay, this has happened, but I can see and feel now what truly is most important to me in my life, which is my family. And I'm going to prioritize that above everything else. So for this one, I just say go with grace and compassion. But if you're feeling discomfort, if you're feeling pain, if you're feeling grief, if you're feeling heartbreak, how can you just sit and be with it, even just for a few moments, just to connect in and say, how am I really feeling in this moment? And one powerful practice that has really supported me in my journey through grief and really sitting and feeling it is just a little journaling practice. It's grab your journal for 10 minutes and just journal on that. How am I really feeling today? See what comes up. No judgment or anything. Let it all flow. Even if you're angry, whatever wants to pour out, let it pour out. And know that in doing that, you are really sitting with yourself. You are giving yourself that gift of your own undivided attention. So I'm just interrupting this episode of Death in the Daily with a little teaser of my Reset for Rest, which is a 6-week immersive group journey that is coming up very, very soon. In this journey, we're going to flow together across 6 weeks of 90-minute, what I call rest sanctuaries. It all happens online. We journey together as a group. We understand what type of rest is truly, deeply in alignment with you. And then each week we spiral around those types of rest that you've identified. We create almost like a little cocoon of understanding and of authentic action towards creating a more restful way of being this year. I would love for you to join us. If you head to the show notes, you'll be able to check out when the next Reset for Rest is flowing through. If you're watching this pretty soon afterwards, the next one is going to be on the 12th of February. We start. And I would love for you to join us. So next up, it's that with love will eventually come grief. But I start this by saying it is so, so worth it. Imagine if we moved through a life where we didn't feel that full force of love. And actually for me, I really connect into what I call it's a tattoo of grief that's just over my heart space. And that tattoo of grief for our daughter is roaring or purring, depends, inside of me. But in any day I can feel it. But actually I have, I suppose, reframed what that tattoo of grief is. It's not just a beacon of pain. Oh my goodness, it's grief. I need to get away from it. It's a beacon of my love for my daughter and her presence as she continues to reside right within my heart. And there's a beautiful Francis Weller quote that I wanted to share. It's from The Wild Edge of Sorrow, which is one of my favorite books on grief. And he shares that grief and love are sisters, woven together from the beginning. Their kinship reminds us that there is no love that does not contain loss. And I think this is so beautiful because obviously everything in life is impermanent. Nothing is infinite. Obviously, dependent on your beliefs, you might believe that your love will be infinite till the end of time. But, by way of us in the physical, we are all impermanent. And at some point, just as we love, someday, unfortunately, that which we love will be lost, or we will be obviously lost, dependent on who goes first. When I think about that tattoo of grief that I hold, I really connect into the fact that actually I have become curiously comfortable in moving through life with it, move through the supermarket, wherever I am, my day to day, I feel it. But actually there's a beautiful comfort that I've found. And so much so that, just as I shared earlier, that obviously if I could rewind and make our daughter not have that birth defect and, bring her into this world so that she could be in my arms right now, I would do that in a heartbeat. But equally, if you said to me, okay, Men in Black style, we'll send Will Smith and he will do that little snap thing and that's going to erase this whole experience from you, meaning that you're not going to be living with that pain. I would not do that. No way. No way would I erase. Well, obviously I wouldn't erase her, but would I even erase this pain? No way. And that's because it brings me so much, and it brings me a daily reminder. You know, in the episode with Jodie, she talked about putting little skulls around to remind us of our own mortality. And actually for me, my tattoo of grief is that daily reminder to live this life well, because we just don't know when this life is going to end. So how does this relate to each of us? Death really teaches us to prioritize those and that which matters the most to us, because actually we never know which day is going to be our last. So love those that you love deeply and let yourself feel it. I know that we live in a world where, you know, relationships are complicated, and actually sometimes we can really truly love someone, but know that there's a bit of work that needs to be done, or that we need to open our heart to them. And this is something actually that I'm doing with a few of my relationships. So I'd say, you know, join me in this. Let's see how we can just slowly crack open our heart and work on those relationships, because really, truly, there is no time like the present. And third up, we've got, when that lightning bolt of clarity comes, make sure you follow it. So being with death and being in our grief can bring a lightning bolt of clarity to some of us. I will caveat, again, it's all about receiving those messages. You know, we don't want to try and force this, because all of our experiences are completely different. But when you do receive that lightning bolt of clarity, that, oh my goodness, I can see clearly what is most important to me in this life. I can see clearly some actions that I need to take to let go, to step away from something that just isn't serving me, or is toxic and is just really, really not, well, maybe even damaging me, damaging my health, damaging my relationships, damaging me being able to enjoy life. We want to capture what is that clarity and take forwards those lessons. Because what I see a lot when I speak to people is that, you know, business as usual can creep back in. And particularly because we live in a society and culture where there isn't enough time for mourning. And if you think about it, you know, in work, I mean, UK, we're quite lucky by way of the amount of bereavement leave that we get. Varies place to place. I know that other places like the US, the sort of the statutory is, I don't think it's even there. And I think that that is really, really sad, because actually what that does is it forces you too soon, when you're still in that cocooning phase of being with your grief, as well as perhaps that clarity coming through, it forces you back into that business as usual. And when, you know, the busyness of life takes back over, it can mean that those messages get pushed away, and then eventually they just disappear into a distant memory. So write it down. Capture any of that clarity as it comes, because actually we also want to be compassionate, that when we're grieving, you know, our head can be all over the place and we're not sort of, I suppose, able to retain as much. And that's totally okay. But have your journal next to you, and just, if you get any of those bits of lightning bolt clarity, write it down. Asking yourself, what opportunities for truly living the best life has become clear to me in this moment? And then when you're ready, and only when you're ready, make a plan. So write out, what are the next steps in order to do this? What do I need to let go of? And then take it step by step. You know, small steps, they truly do multiply up. We're not going to, a bit like, you know, in the New Year's resolution side of things, that immediately trying to change everything, that's not going to work. We want to stay committed to that path, and we want to just literally take it step by meaningful step, in a very small way, small chunks, little and often. And remembering that if that is the lesson that integrated, if our loved ones have shown us that actually this life is finite, so let's not waste it on the mundane and the unaligned, then let's make sure that we take that. And I truly believe, you know, for some of us, that can be a beautiful legacy that exists within us from our loved ones. And imagine that they're going to be smiling on all of us, you know, knowing that that is their imprint that they've left on us. So those are my 3 lessons on living and loving from my darling daughter. And I end each episode with a note to self. And in today's episode, actually, I'm adding a few little journal prompts in, because I want to make this a really reflective space for us. So I start with my one line, which is a new mantra that I've written for myself. And then I'll go into the journal prompts that you can take away. You can grab that journal, you can reflect on in your own time. We only have this one life, so let's live it like we're mortal. And the journal prompts to help you in reflecting on this and understanding what truly matters the most to you in this life are: who and what in life is most important to me? How will I prioritize myself and those who matter the most? What do I need to let go of and deprioritize in order to center me and my loved ones in my life? And finally, how can I be more present and make those memories that truly matter? So this completes this episode of Death on the Daily. I hope that wherever you are at the start of the year or whenever you are tuning in, that you take it with lots of grace, you take it with lots of compassion, you keep gently connecting into that which is difficult, to that which is painful, and that you grab that journal anytime any of those life lessons that they flow through, knowing that every single step that you take, big and small in this journey, as you unearth what is truly most important to you in this life, they all will add up, they multiply, and they make all of that difference in this life. All of my gratitude to you for joining me for another Dead Conversation. Death on the Daily is edited by David Strutt. The music is Set Free by Katie Gray. And I am Tanya Wilkinson. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would be over the moon if you can rate, review, and subscribe. It really, really helps me to get the word out there. And if you want to say hi or to hear more about my work as a coach and death doula, including how I support my clients to navigate their death on the daily, then all of the ways that you can connect with me are in the show notes. I'll be back soon with some more Dead Conversations. And in the meantime, take good care of yourself and others.
There's a cold fire, there's a crossfire, and there's something inside. And we'll never make it, and we'll never